In 2017, something strange happened. Across the country, hell, across the world, people started seeing clowns again. Not in circuses, not at kids' parties, but standing on street corners, hiding in woods, crouching under bridges. Red balloons were tied to sewer grates. It felt like reality itself was playing a marketing stunt, like the universe decided to roll out a viral campaign for a movie that didn't even need it. Everyone already knew what was coming. It. The name alone brought something back. Childhood fear in a series. The reminder that maybe clowns were never really funny to begin with. You could feel that unease start to spread again. For the first time in years, a horror film felt massive. Not critically acclaimed, not underground hit, but mainstream blockbuster. The kind of movie everyone at work talked about, had theories about, planned to see opening weekend. It was the kind of communal hype that belonged exclusively to superheroes and space operas. But this time, it was a clown in a sewer commanding the stage. And maybe that's what made it so special, the absurdity of it all. As I said, we were living in a world dominated by cinematic universes and franchise formulas, and somehow this R-rated adaptation of a 30-year-old Stephen King novel became the event. It wasn't just horror fans, it wasn't just King readers, it was everyone. You couldn't escape Pennywise even if you tried. Red balloons popped up in store displays. Halloween aisles were filled with It masks and shirts. You'd scroll Twitter or YouTube and see edits, memes, jokes, and somewhere between irony and fascination, a genuine cultural obsession formed. The word hysteria doesn't even cover it. For a few strange, magical months, the world was collectively scared and loving it. It wasn't just another remake. It was a moment, the kind of phenomenon you could feel in the air. Horror, for once, wasn't something niche or cult-like. It was universal. It was mainstream. It was fun. And as I think back on that year, on the clown sightings, the memes, the red balloons, the merch, the hype, I realized it wasn't just about a movie. It was about the thrill of anticipation, about remembering what it felt like when the entire world was excited to be scared. By the time 2017 rolled around, I felt like the world was ready for something different, or maybe something familiar that felt new again. There was this growing nostalgia everywhere. Retro aesthetics, 80s fonts, synth music, Stranger Things dominating Netflix. Everything old suddenly felt alive again. And right in the middle of that wave was It. A part of me thought it was doomed to fail, but then that first trailer dropped, and just like that, those doubts were gone. The timing couldn't have been better. It arrived right in the middle of the superhero era, the height of Marvel dominance. Yet somehow this R-rated horror film managed to steal the spotlight. And that's still wild to me. I mean, this was a time when people were counting down days to Infinity War, and somehow a clown in a sewer was trending just as hard. It felt like a genre rebellion, proof that horror could still go toe-to-toe with the biggest blockbusters in the world. The thing is, It didn't just rely on nostalgia. It earned its place. Horror had already started climbing back into prestige territory with movies like The Witch and Get Out. But this was different. It wasn't art house or abstract. It was fun, scary, heartfelt, and massive. It reminded people that horror could still be a shared experience, not something you streamed alone in the dark, but something you went to see with people. And as I said earlier, it had presence everywhere. Stores were selling Pennywise shirts, Funko Pops, Halloween displays with red balloons hanging from the ceiling. It felt surreal to see horror merch sitting next to Star Wars and Marvel stuff. And it became evident just how big this movie was going to be when that trailer dropped. Within 24 hours, nearly 200 million people had watched it, numbers once reserved for the likes of Marvel or Star Wars. That single trailer turned curiosity into obsession. For me, it was the moment I realized this movie wasn't just going to be good, it was going to be huge. And once I finally saw it, the first 5 minutes proved me right. The moment Georgie met Pennywise in that storm drain, tension, the way the camera lingered, the childlike voice turning sinister, that was it. The movie wasn't playing around. The crowd I saw it with gasped, laughed nervously, then went dead quiet. It wasn't just nostalgia anymore. It was something new, something that felt alive again. And it all started with that brutal, unforgettable opening. That opening scene with Georgie set the tone perfectly. You've got rain pouring down, this quiet sense of innocence, and then that voice. The way Pennywise leans into the shadows, almost gentle at first. Hiya, Georgie. It's disarming. It feels wrong in the best way. And then the movie does something that almost no studio horror film would ever dare to do. It shows it. Pennywise biting that kid's arm clean off, a 7-year-old. No cutaway, no implication, full-on nightmare fuel. In that instant, the audience knew this wasn't gonna be safe or predictable. That moment wasn't just scary, it was statement cinema. From that point on, the film never let up, and at the center of it all was one man, Bill Skarsgard. This dude didn't just play Pennywise, he became him. It's wild to think how much pressure he was set up to fail. But Skarsgard didn't imitate, he reinvented. Everything about his performance feels off in the most fascinating way. The drooling grin, the erratic head tilt, that jerky puppet-like movement, and of course, the eye thing. I remember reading later that he could actually move each of his eyes independently, no CGI, no tricks. That lazy, unhinged stare became one of the defining images of the whole movie. It's such a small detail, but it added this inhuman realism that you just can't fake. What really sells it though isn't just the monstrous side of Pennywise, it's his childlike charm. That early sewer conversation with Georgie is still one of my favorite moments in modern horror. Skarsgård balances charm and menace so perfectly that you almost believe him for a second. You want to believe him. The lisp, the voice cracks, the playfulness, it's like he's weaponizing innocence, and that's what makes him terrifying. Skarsgård's performance not only elevated the film, but it elevated him. Overnight, he went from promising actor to a full-blown Hollywood name, and Pennywise became a pop culture icon all over again. Then you've got the kids, the Losers Club, part of the movie. This cast was lightning in a bottle. Every single one of them feels distinct, believable, and real. Their chemistry carries the whole story. You can tell they weren't just reading lines, they were those kids. Swearing, the jokes, the fear, the awkwardness, it all felt natural. They weren't horror victims, they were friends. That's why audiences kept coming back to rewatch it. Not just to see Pennywise, but to hang out with the losers again. The Stranger Things connection helped, sure. Finn Wolfhard was the familiar face that drew a lot of people in, but the group dynamic went beyond that. There's a warmth in this movie that you don't usually get in horror. It's that rare feel-good horror where you actually enjoy being in that world even when it's terrifying. And man, the atmosphere, the way it looks, sounds, and moves, the cinematography makes the town of Derry feel alive. Sun-bleached streets, old houses, a sense of childhood wonder hiding something rotten underneath. It's like Stand By Me meets Nightmare on Elm Street. Even when nothing scary's happening, you're uneasy. The slideshow scene, the library scene, the naval house sequence. Every set piece is crafted with real care. Dude, that fucking scene where Pennywise contorts out of the fridge, then does that little walk, sent chills down my spine the first time I saw it. What makes it special though, is how it balances that fear with emotion. You feel the danger, but you also feel the friendship, humor, the heartbreak. It's that perfect mix of heart and nightmare. It's why people who don't even usually like horror found themselves loving it. And then of course, there's the box office. This movie didn't just perform well, it dominated. Over $700 million worldwide on a budget of around $35 million. It outgrossed Thor Ragnarok domestically and almost matched Spider-Man Homecoming's domestic gross as well. Think about that for a second. Hell, if it came out today, it would have outperformed every Marvel or DC release this year, and that's before inflation. That's how much of a phenomenon it was. What's crazy is that it didn't feel like a fluke, it felt earned. The marketing, the performances, the tone, it all clicked. It reminded people that horror could still be huge, still matters, still be something you talked about for weeks. It didn't sneak its way into the mainstream. It marched right in, balloon in hand, and owned it. For all the horror and spectacle, it never forgets what it's really about. Growing up. That's why the blood oath scene hits as hard as it does. It's the moment where the fear stops being about Pennywise and starts being about life itself. About the kind of pain you can't just run from. The Losers Club standing there together, hands cut open, promising they'll always stick together. It's beautiful and heartbreaking all at once. The "we'll always stick together" vibe. You hear the score and it hits you right in the chest because deep down, you know they won't. None of us do. Everyone remembers that one friendship they couldn't keep, that one summer that slipped away, that feeling of being young and invincible before life started pulling everyone in different directions. What makes that moment so powerful is that it perfectly captures what it has really been about the whole time: the loss of innocence. These kids have been through something horrifying, something no one would believe, and that bond they forged feels sacred. It's not just blood they're sealing, it's memory. And for me, that scene always mirrors that same kind of Halloween season nostalgia I carry. It's not just about monsters or scares, it's about remembering how it felt to be young, to be brave, to feel everything so deeply. Horror has a way of doing that, of letting you process change and fear in a way that feels strangely comforting. It's cathartic. It reminds you what it's like to feel alive. The Blood Oath scene isn't just a finale, it's the heart of the entire story. It's the moment where horror gives way to emotion, where fear and friendship collide. And that's why years later, it still stays with me. That bittersweet reminder that growing up means moving on. But some memories, some promises, never really fade. It Chapter 2 tried to follow up on the phenomenon, and to be fair, it had its moments. The cast was great, the budget was massive, and it had all the ingredients of a hit. But something was missing. The intimacy, the spark, that sense of togetherness that made the first one feel so electric, just wasn't there. It tried to go bigger when what made the first one special was how personal it felt. Since 2017, horror's been thriving creatively and critically. We've seen masterpieces like Hereditary and breakout hits like Weapons. The genre's in great shape, but none of them hit that same global event status that it had. None had people dressing up, flooding theaters, or talking nonstop for weeks. The world's changed. Streaming split audiences into smaller bubbles, and those collective movie moments where everyone seemed to be watching the same thing are rare now. Looking back, it almost feels like the last of its kind. The last time a horror movie dominated every conversation, every feed, every Halloween costume aisle. It was proof that horror could still be both massive and meaningful, that it could scare the hell out of you and make you feel something real. And maybe that's why it stuck with me all these years later, because it wasn't just a movie about fear, it was a reminder of how fun it can be to be afraid together, in a theater full of strangers, in the dark, laughing and gasping at the same time. For one strange, perfect fall, horror ruled the world again, and maybe deep down, that's what we're all still chasing. Not just the next great horror movie, but the next moment that reminds us what it feels like when everyone's watching the same nightmare together.